Imagine waking up every morning, stepping into a world that seems determined to say no to everything you try. Imagine applying for jobs only to be rejected over and over again, facing criticism from everyone around you and watching doors close before you can even step through. Most people would give up. Most people would let rejection, fear, and doubt take control. But not Jack Ma. Jack Ma, a man who started with nothing, a man who faced failure so many times that it would have crushed anyone else, decided early on that the world's noise would not define him. He chose a different path. He learned to act as if nothing bothers him. He learned to treat failure, criticism, and chaos as temporary, irrelevant distractions while keeping his eyes firmly fixed on the mission. Today, I want to take you on a journey into the mind of a man who turned rejection into opportunity, criticism into strategy, failure into fuel, and happiness into power. This is a story that will show you that no matter how hard life pushes you down, how many doors close in your face, or how loud the world doubts you, you can rise, you can persevere, and you can achieve greatness if you learn to act as if nothing bothers you. Rejection is not something that anyone enjoys facing, but it is something every single person encounters at different points in life. Jack Ma's life is one of the best examples of how rejection can be a powerful turning point rather than a dead end. When he was young, he faced rejection almost everywhere he went. He applied for dozens of jobs and was turned down. He tried to enter universities abroad, failed multiple times in his entrance exams, and was denied repeatedly. One of the most famous stories about him is when KFC opened in his hometown of Hangzhou. 24 people applied for jobs. 23 got hired, but Jack Ma was the only one who didn't. Most people would feel crushed and defeated by something like this. They would feel embarrassed, unwanted, and worthless. But Jack Ma had a different approach. He didn't allow those rejections to make him stop dreaming. He acted as if those moments didn't define his value. He simply kept moving forward. That mindset, acting as though nothing bothers you, was his secret weapon. When you treat rejection as the end, you immediately cut off your possibilities. You convince yourself that the door is permanently locked and that you are not good enough. But rejection is not the end. It is often just the beginning of a different path, sometimes even better than the one you first imagined. Jack Ma believed that rejection was teaching him something that success could not. Every time he was rejected, he learned more about his own resilience, more about how to handle pain without being broken, and more about how to keep a positive spirit even in dark moments. That kind of training, repeated again and again through failure, created the strength he needed to build Alibaba against all odds. He didn't crumble when people told him no. Instead, he treated rejection as part of the game. This is where many people make a mistake. They think rejection is proof that they are not capable. But Jack Ma teaches the opposite. He shows that rejection is proof you are trying. If you face rejection, it means you are putting yourself out there. It means you are seeking opportunities instead of hiding in fear. Those who never get rejected are usually the ones who never take risks in the first place. Jack Ma took risk after risk, rejection after rejection, until finally one of those chances turned into a life-changing opportunity. The truth is that rejection refines you. It doesn't define you. It forces you to toughen your mind, sharpen your skills, and prepare for something greater, Jack Ma once said. If you don't give up, you still have a chance. That statement came from his years of being rejected. He knew that rejection only becomes final when you accept it as final. If you refuse to let rejection break your spirit, then it becomes just another step on the journey. Imagine if Jack Ma had accepted his rejection from KFC as proof that he had no future. There would be no Alibaba, no empire worth billions, no story to inspire millions of people around the world. Instead, he acted unbothered, smiled, and kept looking for the next chance. That's what separates successful people from those who quit. The ability to act as if rejection doesn't define them. Another powerful lesson here is about perspective. When rejection comes, Your perspective determines what happens next. You can see it as humiliation, or you can see it as direction. Jack Ma saw rejection as a teacher. He let it guide him toward his true mission instead of holding him back. He believed that every no was pushing him closer to the right yes. If you can learn to act unbothered by rejection, you can train your mind to wait patiently for that right opportunity. And when it comes, you will be ready to seize it. Rejection also builds humility. Jack Ma never carried bitterness toward the people or companies that rejected him. He didn't waste his energy on revenge or negativity. He understood that rejection was part of life. By acting calm and unbothered, he kept his energy focused on growth, not grudges. That humility allowed him to connect with people later in life, inspire them with his story, and lead a team with compassion. When you act unbothered, you don't let rejection poison your heart. Instead, you use it as fuel for your future. Rejection hurts, but it doesn't have to stop you. Jack Ma showed the world that rejection is not the end. It is just the beginning. It is a redirection, a lesson, and a hidden blessing in disguise. The key is to act as though it doesn't bother you, not because you don't feel pain, but because you refuse to let that pain decide your destiny. That's how Jack Ma turned countless rejections into the foundation of one of the greatest success stories of our time. Confidence in the middle of chaos is one of the strongest lessons Jack Ma has ever taught through his life and leadership. Chaos is something that every entrepreneur, leader, and even an ordinary individual faces when life takes unpredictable turns. For Jack Ma, chaos was not just a random event. It was his entire journey while building Alibaba. He faced countless challenges, from lack of money to lack of trust, from heavy criticism to enormous competition. Yet, in the middle of all this uncertainty, he remained calm and confident, almost as if nothing could shake him. That calmness was not arrogance, it was a deliberate choice. He knew that the way he carried himself would directly influence the people around him. If he showed fear, his team would feel fear. If he showed despair, his team would lose hope. But when he carried confidence, even when things looked impossible, his team found strength to keep going. In the early days of Alibaba, Jack Ma gathered 17 friends in his small apartment and explained his vision of creating an online marketplace that could connect China to the world. At that time, almost nobody in China even understood the internet. Investors laughed at the idea. Banks refused to give him loans. Competitors dismissed him. The situation looked chaotic and uncertain, but Jack Ma carried himself as if he already believed in victory. He spoke to his team with such conviction that they began to believe in the dream, not because the evidence supported it, but because their leader's confidence carried them through the chaos. This is what real leadership looks like. Projecting confidence when the world is drowning in doubt. The truth is, confidence during chaos is not about ignoring reality. It is about controlling your reaction to it. Chaos has a way of overwhelming people. It makes them panic, doubt themselves, and freeze in fear. But Jack Ma understood that panic never solves problems. Confidence, however, creates clarity. Even when the problems were massive, even when Alibaba was close to running out of money, he would tell his team stories, crack jokes, and remind them of the bigger picture. He acted as though the storms around them could not sink their ship. That attitude gave his people the courage to keep working, to keep believing, and to keep fighting for the vision. What made his confidence powerful was that it wasn't just for show. Jack Ma truly believed that chaos was temporary. He believed that no matter how many challenges came, there would always be a way forward if they stayed united and worked hard. His team absorbed that energy. They began to feel that even when the world laughed at them, their leader was unshaken. That unshaken spirit became a shield against the fear of failure. It transformed chaos into a test of persistence rather than a reason to quit. This is why Jack Ma often says that leaders must have a heart that can handle rejection, pain, and difficulty while still giving hope to others. A leader who shows weakness in chaos spreads weakness, but a leader who shows confidence spreads strength. Confidence in chaos is also about perspective. When chaos comes, most people see only problems. Jack Ma chose to see opportunities hidden inside those problems. For example, when the internet bubble burst in the early 2000s, many companies collapsed. It was a time of fear and uncertainty. But Jack Ma told his team that this was the perfect time to grow stronger because the weak competitors would fall away and only the ones with real vision would survive. His ability to reframe chaos as opportunity gave Alibaba the edge it needed. Instead of running from the storm, he walked straight through it with confidence. That is the kind of mindset that builds empires. Another reason confidence is important in chaos is because it keeps people moving. Chaos can paralyze individuals and teams. People freeze because they don't know what to do. But Jack Ma's confidence kept his people taking action. Even small steps forward during chaos are powerful because they prevent despair from setting in. He reminded his team that no situation is permanent, that the storm would pass, and that their hard work would pay off if they didn't give up. By staying confident, he kept momentum alive. Momentum is often the difference between survival and collapse. When chaos hits, it is also worth noting that Jack Ma's confidence wasn't about pretending everything was perfect. He acknowledged difficulties openly, but he didn't let those difficulties dominate the mood. He told his people, yes, the problems are real. Yes, the challenges are big, but no, we are not going to let them crush us. That balance of honesty and confidence built trust. His people knew he was aware of the chaos, but they also knew he would never let the chaos control him. That trust gave them faith to follow him into the unknown future. Chaos is inevitable in life. No matter who you are, there will be moments when everything feels uncertain and overwhelming. Jack Ma shows that the secret is not to eliminate chaos, but to carry confidence within it. When you learn to act as if nothing bothers you, when you project calm strength even in the middle of storms, you give yourself and others the courage to keep moving forward. That is how leaders inspire people, how businesses survive crisis, and how ordinary people turn chaos into opportunity. Confidence in chaos is not just a survival skill. It is the key to turning impossible situations into incredible victories. Don't take criticism personally is one of the most important lessons Jack Ma lived by and preached to others. In his journey from being a rejected job applicant to becoming the founder of Alibaba, he faced endless amounts of criticism from people around him. They told him he wasn't smart enough, that he wasn't technical enough, and that he didn't have the skills required to succeed in business. Some said he didn't understand the internet at all, while others mocked his ideas as unrealistic and destined to fail. If Jack Ma had taken all of that personally, if he had allowed their voices to sink into his heart and define who he was, he would never have continued on his path. Instead, he developed the ability to act as though those words didn't bother him. He listened, but he filtered. He took lessons from criticism without letting it poison his vision or his spirit. That balance was what allowed him to grow without being broken. Criticism is something everyone faces, whether they are starting a small business, pursuing a dream, or simply trying to improve their life. The world has no shortage of people who will doubt you, laugh at you, and tell you that you can't make it. Many people collapse under that pressure because they confuse criticism with truth. They believe that if someone criticizes them, it must mean they are not good enough. But Jack Ma shows that criticism is not always about you. It often reflects the limitations and fears of the person giving it. When people told him he didn't understand technology, they were right in one sense. He wasn't a technical expert. But he didn't take it as an insult. He turned that criticism into a strategy. He surrounded himself with people who were skilled in technology while he focused on vision, leadership, and strategy. By refusing to take it personally, he turned their doubts into direction. Another reason not to take criticism personally is because it drains your energy. When you let negative words cut too deep, you waste your time defending yourself, feeling hurt, or trying to prove everyone wrong in the wrong way. Jack Ma never wasted energy fighting back against every critic. He didn't try to convince them that he was right through arguments. Instead, he allowed success to become his answer. He once said that the best way to respond to doubt is not by fighting, but by proving through results. That philosophy allowed him to remain calm in the face of negativity. He acted unbothered, even when powerful voices laughed at him, because he knew that arguing with critics would not build Alibaba, but working hard in silence would. What makes Jack Ma's approach powerful is that he knew some criticism held truth. He didn't ignore every negative comment. He had the wisdom to extract useful lessons from them without taking them personally. If someone said his idea lacked structure, he would review the structure. If someone pointed out flaws in his team, he would think of ways to improve the team. But he never let those words attack his identity. That separation is critical. Criticism about your work can help you grow, but criticism that attacks your worth should never be absorbed. Jack Ma mastered that separation, and that's why he could keep improving without ever losing his confidence. Another part of his journey was dealing with media criticism. As Alibaba grew, the media often questioned his methods, his decisions, and even his personality. At times, they painted him as a dreamer with unrealistic ambitions. At other times, they doubted Alibaba's survival against giants like eBay or Amazon. If he had taken all of that personally, he might have stepped back or doubted himself. But instead, he reminded himself and his team that criticism is often a sign that you are doing something important. If no one criticizes you, it usually means you are not making any real impact. The more Alibaba grew, the more criticism came, and Jack Ma took it as proof that they were shaking the system. He taught his people to see criticism as noise, not as a verdict. Don't take criticism personally also means protecting your peace. Jack Ma often kept a smile on his face, even when facing tough questions or harsh feedback. That smile was his shield. It showed that he wouldn't let the words of others disturb his inner calm. He wanted to show the world that he was not bothered by opinions, because he had chosen to focus on his mission. By keeping his peace, he stayed creative, energetic, and visionary. People who get trapped in the cycle of defending themselves lose that peace, and with it, their ability to think clearly. Jack Ma refused to let that happen to him at its core. His philosophy teaches that criticism is inevitable, but how you handle it determines your success. If you take it personally, you get stuck. If you ignore it completely, you miss opportunities to learn. But if you treat it with balance, filter the useful parts, ignore the toxic parts, you grow stronger. Jack Ma embodied this balance. His calmness in the face of criticism became a strength that inspired others. He showed that acting unbothered is not about arrogance, it's about resilience. It's about protecting your vision from being destroyed by negativity while still being open enough to learn what needs improvement. That is how he kept moving forward when others would have stopped. And that is how he turned criticism into fuel for one of the greatest business success stories in history. Failure is just part of the story. And this is one of the most powerful truths Jack Ma constantly reminds people of through his own life experiences. Most people see failure as the opposite of success, but in reality, failure is a stepping stone toward it. Jack Ma's early life was filled with failure. He failed his school entrance exams multiple times. He failed in job interviews. He failed in his first entrepreneurial attempts, and he failed in convincing people to believe in his vision for Alibaba. By normal standards, he should have quit long ago. Yet what made him different was the way he chose to see failure. Instead of treating it as an end, he treated it as a chapter in the larger story of his life. He knew that failure wasn't permanent. It was just part of the process, part of the training, part of the journey that would eventually shape him into the person capable of handling success. Jack Ma often says that failure teaches you things success cannot. Success makes people feel comfortable, but failure pushes them to reflect, adapt, and grow. When he was rejected from Harvard 10 times, most people would have been devastated. But Jack Ma took it with a smile and said that the rejections made him stronger. When his early attempts at business failed, such as his first internet company before Alibaba, he didn't let those failures crush him. He studied them, learned from them, and then moved forward with even more determination. He acted unbothered on the outside, not because he didn't care, but because he understood that showing defeat would discourage those around him. By carrying himself as if failure couldn't break him, he turned every setback into motivation for the next attempt. What makes this lesson powerful is that it changes the way you react to obstacles. Most people stop when they fail. They think that one failure defines their ability. But Jack Ma believed that every failure was simply feedback. It was life's way of saying, not this way, try another path. This mindset turned his failures into maps guiding him towards success. For example, when he tried to raise money for Alibaba in the beginning, he faced rejection after rejection from investors. If he had treated those rejections as final failures, the company would have died before it even started. But he saw those failures as normal, expected even in the journey of building something new. He refused to take them as personal defeats, and because of that, he kept going until the right opportunity appeared. Another important part of his perspective is the emotional discipline he practiced. Failure is painful, and many people let that pain paralyze them. They feel embarrassed, ashamed, or broken. But Jack Ma trained himself to feel the failure, then move past it quickly. He would often joke about his own failures, telling stories with humor, which showed that he refused to let them control his emotions. That humor was a sign of strength, a way of showing his team and the world that no matter how many times he failed, he was still standing, still smiling, still ready to try again. That resilience is what kept him alive in the business world when many others gave up. Failure also built humility in Jack Ma. Instead of thinking he was too good to fail, he accepted that failure is part of being human. This humility made him more approachable as a leader. His team trusted him because they knew he understood the struggles they faced. He never pretended to be perfect. By openly sharing his failures, he showed that success isn't about avoiding mistakes, but about refusing to quit when mistakes happen. This attitude built a culture within Alibaba where people weren't afraid to take risks because they knew their leader didn't fear failure. That culture allowed innovation to thrive. Jack Ma often compares failure to training. Just like muscles grow stronger after stress and resistance, a person grows stronger after facing and surviving failure. Without failure, there is no strength, no resilience, no real progress. He believed that every great achievement is built on a mountain of failures that most people never see. What the world eventually applauds as overnight success is actually years of hidden failures endured without quitting. He wanted people to understand that failure isn't a stop sign. It's a signpost telling you to keep moving in a different way. By carrying himself with calmness and positivity after each failure, he made failure just another part of his larger story. Not the final chapter. The ultimate lesson from Jack Ma is that failure is not the opposite of success. It is the foundation of success. He proved that you can fail countless times and still achieve greatness if you don't let failure define you. The secret is to act unbothered, to treat failure as temporary, and to focus on what comes next instead of what just went wrong. When you adopt this mindset, failure loses its power to break you. It becomes part of your story, part of your growth, part of the process that prepares you for the victories waiting ahead. Jack Ma's life is proof that failure, when handled with resilience, is not something to fear, but something to embrace as the price of building something extraordinary. Focus on the mission, not the noise, is a principle that Jack Ma has consistently emphasized throughout his journey. And it is one of the most critical factors behind his success. From the very beginning, he faced immense criticism, skepticism, and distractions from people who could not see his vision. When he started Alibaba, the internet in China was still in its infancy. Investors doubted him, competitors laughed, and even friends and family questioned whether his dream was realistic. The world was full of noise, full of opinions, and doubts meant to sway him off course. Yet Jack Ma refused to be distracted. He made a conscious choice to focus on the mission, the goal of connecting Chinese businesses with global markets, and to treat the external chatter as background noise. This ability to stay mission-focused allowed him to make decisions calmly, strategically, and with long long-term vision rather than being derailed by temporary criticism or opposition. The first lesson in focusing on the mission is understanding that distractions are everywhere. Life constantly throws opinions, doubts, and negativity in your direction. Most people respond by trying to address every single voice, to prove themselves to everyone, and to react emotionally to every criticism. Jack Ma recognized that responding to noise is a trap that steals energy, focus, and creativity. He knew that every hour spent worrying about skeptics or doubters is an hour not spent building, improving, or innovating. Instead, he trained himself to filter out what didn't matter. He learned to ask, does this help me achieve my mission, or is it just noise? That simple question helped him prioritize actions, conserve energy, and stay aligned with his ultimate purpose. Another aspect of this principle is vision. Jack Ma's mission was never about quick wins, immediate recognition, or popularity. His mission was about creating something lasting, something meaningful, something that would make a real impact. When investors laughed at him or competitors tried to copy Alibaba, he didn't retaliate or get distracted. He didn't let short-term setbacks or loud voices steal his attention. Instead, he measured every action against the mission. Does this move bring us closer to our goal? If yes, he acted. If no, he ignored it. This laser-like focus ensured that his energy was spent on building, growing, and innovating, rather than reacting to every external opinion. Staying mission-focused also requires patience. Most people are easily swayed by immediate reactions or results. If the market doesn't respond the way they expect, they panic. If critics are loud, they worry. Jack Ma, however, understood that the mission often unfolds over years, and the noise is temporary. Early in Alibaba's history, when eBay entered China, many people feared that Jack Ma's company would fail. The noise was deafening, the pressure was enormous, yet he continued to focus on his mission. He refined his platform, improved customer service, and built trust with local businesses. The results didn't come overnight, but because he stayed focused, Alibaba eventually outperformed eBay in China. This shows that focusing on the mission is not about ignoring challenges. It's about not letting challenges distract you from the bigger picture. The principle also applies to handling competition and criticism. Jack Ma often faced negative commentary from both media and industry peers. Some questioned his strategy, some doubted his leadership, and some even accused him of unrealistic ambition. But he refused to engage with every opinion. By treating such voices as noise rather than obstacles, he preserved his mental energy for solving real problems. Acting as if nothing bothers you in this way allows a leader or entrepreneur to make rational, objective decisions. Instead of being reactive, you become proactive, concentrating on the work that drives progress and ignoring the opinions that have no constructive value. Another important lesson from Jack Ma is that focusing on the mission helps you maintain internal peace. Noise creates stress, distraction, and self-doubt. If you let every critical voice or negative comment control your emotions, your performance suffers. Jack Ma consistently protected his mental space by reminding himself of the mission. He treated external criticism as temporary, unimportant chatter while keeping his attention on the long-term vision. That peace allowed him to think clearly, act decisively, and lead effectively even under extreme pressure. Finally, staying focused on the mission allows you to inspire others. Jack Ma's team, investors, and partners were drawn to his unwavering commitment. When people see someone who is not shaken by external noise, they gain confidence, trust, and motivation. They focus on the work, the mission, and the results rather than being distracted by fear or doubt. This creates a culture of resilience, persistence, and clarity. Qualities that are essential for achieving extraordinary success. Jack Ma's example teaches that noise will always exist. The world will question you, critics will speak, competitors will challenge, and distractions will appear. But if you stay focused on the mission, treating noise as background static, you preserve your energy, protect your peace, make better decisions, and create real impact. The mission becomes your compass, guiding every step, while noise is simply something to ignore, not something to be controlled by. This is how Jack Ma achieved what many thought impossible: And it is the mindset that can help anyone overcome distraction and achieve greatness. Happiness is your power is one of the most profound lessons that Jack Ma has shared through his life and experiences. In a world obsessed with achievements, wealth, and status, many people believe that happiness is something that comes after success, something you earn once you reach your goals. Jack Ma teaches the opposite. Happiness is not a reward. It is a tool, a source of strength, and a fuel that powers success. From the very beginning of his journey, he faced enormous challenges, from repeated rejections in his youth to the daunting task of building Alibaba from scratch in a country where the internet was almost non-existent. Many people in his position would have become bitter, frustrated, or stressed. Yet Jack Ma maintained a sense of joy, humor, and optimism that allowed him to endure hardships and inspire those around him. His ability to act as if nothing bothers him was rooted not in ignorance of difficulties, but in a deliberate choice to preserve his happiness and use it as a source of power. Happiness, according to Jack Ma, is a mindset. He believed that when you carry a joyful spirit, you are more creative, more resilient, and more capable of handling pressure. Difficult situations and failures do not vanish, but a happy mind gives you the strength to confront them without being overwhelmed. In the early days of Alibaba, Jack Ma often joked, laughed, and kept a positive attitude even when the company faced financial struggles and skeptics were loud. That happiness was contagious. It gave his team energy and hope. People around a happy leader are more willing to work hard, take risks, and innovate because they feel supported and inspired rather than intimidated or stressed. By protecting his happiness, Jack Ma created an environment where people were motivated to give their best, which directly contributed to the growth and success of Alibaba. Another key aspect of this principle is emotional control. Life will throw endless obstacles, criticism, and setbacks. Most people allow these external pressures to dictate their emotional state, reacting with anger, fear, or despair. Jack Ma, however, treated happiness as a shield. When facing criticism, rejection, or competition, he chose not to let negative emotions control him. He understood that if he let frustration, bitterness, or stress dominate his mind, he would make poor decisions and lose clarity. By maintaining a happy, calm, and positive mindset, he preserved his ability to think strategically and act effectively. Happiness gave him the mental clarity to navigate crises, solve problems, and lead decisively even in the most challenging circumstances. Happiness also fosters resilience. Jack Ma faced repeated failures, from being rejected by jobs to failing in early business ventures. Many people would have quit, feeling defeated by repeated setbacks. But Jack Ma's happiness allowed him to view failure differently, not as an endpoint, but as a temporary obstacle and a learning opportunity. When your inner state is rooted in joy and positivity, setbacks become less intimidating and you can bounce back faster. Happiness in this sense becomes a form of mental armor that protects you from despair and fuels persistence. Jack Ma demonstrated that the ability to stay joyful, even when the world seems against you, is a critical factor in long-term success. Furthermore, happiness enables leadership and influence. Leaders who carry joy inspire trust, loyalty, and motivation. Jack Ma's positive attitude was never superficial. It was authentic and reflected his ability to enjoy the process of building something meaningful. This authenticity drew people to him, created a collaborative culture, and encouraged others to stay committed even when facing difficulties. Happiness became not only his personal power, but a collective power that amplified the efforts of his entire team. It allowed him to navigate challenges without alienating others and to maintain morale in moments when most would have faltered. Jack Ma also viewed happiness as a long-term strategy. He believed that short-term stress or anger may feel justified, but it depletes energy and clouds judgment. By choosing happiness, he preserved his energy for actions that truly mattered. Building his vision, innovating, and leading his team, Happiness was not denial of reality. It was a conscious decision to remain strong and effective in the face of reality. He treated life as a journey to be enjoyed, not merely a series of problems to survive. That perspective gave him endurance, creativity, and the emotional stability needed to navigate a complex and unpredictable world. Finally, the lesson is simple but powerful. Happiness is not a consequence of success. It is a tool for achieving it. Jack Ma's life shows that those who act unbothered and cultivate a joyful, positive spirit are able to confront challenges with clarity, resilience, and energy. Happiness protects your mind, strengthens your will, and inspires others to follow you. By prioritizing inner joy, Jack Ma turned happiness into a source of power that fueled his relentless pursuit of his mission. His story demonstrates that when you maintain happiness in the face of challenges, you do not just survive difficulties, you leverage them, grow from them, and ultimately transform them into success as we come to the end of this journey through the life and lessons of Jack Ma. Remember that his story is not just about building a business empire. It is about building a mindset. Rejection is not the end, it is the beginning. Confidence in the middle of chaos turns obstacles into opportunities. Criticism is a lesson, not a verdict. Failure is part of the story, not the final chapter. Focusing on your mission keeps you steady when the world is loud, and protecting your happiness gives you the power to rise above every challenge. These are not just principles for business, they are principles for life. If you carry even one of these lessons with you, if you practice acting as if nothing bothers you, you can transform every setback into a stepping stone, every doubt into motivation, and every challenge into an opportunity to grow. So go forward with courage, resilience, and unwavering focus. Trust yourself, stay committed to your mission, and remember to find joy in the journey. The world will throw obstacles your way, but with the mindset of Jack Ma, nothing can stop you. I wish you all the best of luck in your journey. Keep learning, keep growing, and never let anything bother your spirit. Thank you for your time, your attention, and your belief in the power of perseverance and positivity.